I will be covering today the web restores and in-client restore options. The session will cover a brief PowerPoint, a walkthrough of the actual restore options, and then I will give over as much time as possible to the question and answers from the group that are here, and we will try and target questions related to the topic, and I will answer them as best as possible. If there's anything we need to take offline, we can do that. But first of all, we're just going to look at the in-client restores. So in-client restores are based around restoring your files directly from the client and the software that's installed on your machine. So we're looking at the restore tab, the versioning, and so forth. So you might be familiar with this screen. So what we're looking at here is the restore tab within the client. Primarily what we're seeing here is the search area. So what would be the advantages of doing an in-client restore as opposed to a web restore? Well, obviously the most important thing is that this software is installed on your machine. It's quick and easy to access. You open up the software and you select the 1 or 2 files that you want to restore. If it's only a few small files, then this is an ideal way to do it. If it's going to be a larger restore, you may want to think about doing a web restore. We would generally kind of recommend that up to about 4 gigabytes. You know, the speed at which you can do it from the in-client restore is ideal. Why we would say 4 gigabytes is nothing to do with it. You could do a larger restore. It's just that when a restore is running from the in-client option, a backup can't run at the same time. So it may interfere with the amount of times you want to run your backup in a day. The first thing you need to do is identify the file you want to restore. You can do that from here. On the left-hand side, we can search for a file. We have the file options that we can drill down through. We can search the latest version of the file, or we can search by date. If we search by date, we get the calendar option here. We can make changes there. And the advantage as well of the in-client restore is that you can actually select the time of the backup. So if you've run 10 backups in one day, then you can actually select a specific timed backup and that version of the file. You can't do that with the web restore option. When you go to the web restore option, it will just return the most recent backup of the file. Okay, you can only switch the date on the web restores. With in-client, you can actually select the time of the backup as well, and select that particular version. So if you're working on a file throughout the day and you needed to restore the an earlier version of the file at the end of the day, you can do that. Once you've selected your file for backup, then the next thing you will be doing is selecting where you want to actually restore it from with an in-client restore. So the destination folder here is blank. If you leave it blank, then when you're using the in-client restore, the actual file will be returned to its default location, and that's the location it was backed up from. If you make a change, then the file will be restored in its entire file structure. So for example, if I take a file in my documents folder inside my subfolder personal, and I'm restoring the file resume.doc, and I restore that, but I don't want to restore it to its original location, so I hit browse and I select the desktop. If I restore that file on my desktop, what I need to look for is actually the file structure. So you will see a folder with C, and then within that, when you open up that folder, you'll open up the file structure. You go through my documents and then personal folder, and then the file will be there. And I'll show you this in a moment when we go through the in-client restore. The other two options that you have at the end there is overwrite existing files or rename copy if the original exists. So if you're going to restore to the original location, you may want to overwrite the existing file. If you don't, selecting the option to rename the copy will just add the number 1 to the end of the file. Once you're happy with the file selection, you will hit the Restore File button here, and it will restore the files for you. The VSS Restore option here will be available for those of you who have a server user. This VSS Restore option is the recommended form of restoring your VSS backup sets. So if you're backing up SQL Server, if you're backing up Exchange, or if you're backing up Active Directory, then you would use this option through the client. So in terms of web restores, we're looking at how we access the restores. So that can be done from the client. It can also be done online. So there's an option to access the files online from the client that you can click the button, or you can go to mozy.com and log in there and then access your files also. So that online access allows you to actually create a restore from any location. So if you go out to a customer and you've forgotten to bring a particular file with you, you can actually access the file online and restore it and download it to the computer. Or you could, if you're working from home or you're working remotely and something is on your work machine that you're backing up, you can actually log in online and restore that file. Now that is if you're giving access to end users from your company's account to restore files online. Some companies will restrict this and they will not allow their end users to access files online. Emergency restores, it's entitled emergency restores, but it's really just restoring everything. It would be a scenario where you have replaced a computer, or you have lost a computer, or if your computer's been stolen, it's crashed, it's died, and you're getting a new machine in its place, and you want to restore all the files from your previous machine. Then you can do that with the web restores. You can select absolutely everything that's backed up and download that. There's a couple of restore download options that we'll look into when we're going through the walkthrough, and we'll also look at the restore queue. So without further ado, I'm going to move out from this PowerPoint, and I'm actually going to look at the backup software. So if we go from the client down here and we hit right click, we can restore files, and this will open up this restore tab here for the in-client restores. As I mentioned a while ago, if we would want to search for the latest version, we will leave this radio button selected, and we will drill down here. We'll see here are my backup sets that I've selected for backup. If I want to go into the other files and folders, I can open them up too. I can select my desktop, and I can select a particular file. Okay. If I want to leave it in the original location, I don't need to make a change here. If I want to make the change and I want to restore it somewhere else, then I would make the selection here. So in this instance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select something from my documents, and I'm going to restore it to my desktop. So I'm going to select this folder here, and I'm going to select this PowerPoint, or this PDF rather. So I've selected the folder here on the right-hand side and selecting the file, and now I'm going to change my location. I'm going to restore that to the desktop. I can make a new folder for it on the desktop if I wish. I'm just going to hit OK, and now that I'm happy, I'm going to restore files. The status window opens up for me, and as you can see, as quick as that, my files are backed up. Okay, the restore is completed. It's telling me how many files I've backed up, and it's still showing me the status window. I've closed that out, minimize the window, and if we see here, if I looked for that PDF, so that was a PDF, and if I went looking for this file, I don't see it on my desktop. As I mentioned, because I'm changing the restore location, it's now restored to me in the folder structure. So I open up the folder, drill down, and in here I actually see the file. So that is my file, and because I haven't restored it to its original location, it's restoring in its full file structure. And that sometimes will throw people off when they're restoring files using the inclined restore. They change the location and they go looking for it. If it's not the file's original location, it restores it in its file structure. So it'll restore it using this structure here. Okay? So you're always looking for, in that scenario, you're looking for this C drive. Okay? From the restore, inclined restore as well, you can make, as I said, you can actually make changes to your date. You can restore from a particular date. You can restore from a particular time if you wish. So in that scenario, if you wish to change the time or the date, you just select the search date option here. You can select from the calendar the date you wish to restore from. Okay. So if you select the day before, you can then hit the drop down if there's additional backups run. So in this instance, you can see here, I run multiple backups throughout the day, and I can actually select one of these particular times and restore the file as it was backed up at that time. So as I mentioned a while ago, if I've had a file that's changed multiple times over the course of a day, and I want to restore a particular version of the file at lunchtime because there was stuff that I made changes to that I need back, then I can go back to that version and that time by selecting the inclined restore option. Okay? So that's the inclined restore options. Again, we'll move on from here to the web restore options. And if there's any questions at the end, I can come back here and go through specific examples if people have them. Okay? So as I mentioned a while ago, we can access files online directly from our client. So if we hit access files online, it will open up So we'll open up the restore window here. And as I say, if people want to continue putting questions in as we go here, that's no problem. I will just address them at the end when we get to the Q&A. That's no problem if you want to just pop them in there just so you can keep record of them. So the web restore interface looks something like this. You will access your devices. You will see your devices here that you're backing up. If you have multiple devices, in this instance I have 2. You could have more, and you can access your files from here. You can select your machine, and when you select your machine here, you can have the option to restore all files. So this is the emergency restore I mentioned a while ago. So if you would wish to do that, you would select restore all files. It'll open up a restore wizard for you. You will name the restore, and this is so that you can keep track of the restores in your history tab of your restores going forward. So I'm going to name mine, webinar, hit next. I'm going to select the date that I want to actually do the restore from. So what date am I actually doing, what date am I going through the restore from? What date do I want to restore all my files from? So I select my date, I hit next. And this option here sometimes will deceive people. So would you like to include deleted files? What this means is that if in the last number of days I have either deselected files from backup or I've deleted files from backup, then because we have a versioning period in place for our pro customers at 60 days, then the version of the file, if you deselect a file from backup, it will stay on the servers there for 60 days before being permanently deleted. This is to allow for a scenario where somebody accidentally deselects a file, or they move a file to a different location that's not been selected for backup, and they need that file, and they don't realize it for a number of days. These files will remain on the servers until their versioning period has expired, and then they're removed. So it gives you the option here to restore those files as well. So sometimes you'll notice that in my instance here, I know it's fairly light now, but I have about 13.3 gigs of data selected there for backup. Then what I can do is when I hit the include deleted files and hit next, you'll notice how all of a sudden my file size jumps quite large. It's now gone from 13 gigs that I'm currently backing up to nearly 35 gigs. That's why when we look at an account for a customer, generally whatever they're backing up, because you only pay for whatever your last backup was in terms of storage, you're only paying for the storage you're actually using. So for example, in this instance, if I had a 15 gigabyte account, I would only be paying for the 15 gigabytes, even though on the back end I'm taking up 35 gigs of space. This is just the different versions. It's files that may have been deselected from the backup, but they're not gone out of my versioning window yet. So they're there. They're marked to be deleted from our servers for good, but they're still there until they've reached their expiry period. So for a rule of thumb, our support agents are told that whatever somebody's backing up on the front end, so what they're seeing on their client or they're seeing in the admin console, we would generally have about 3 times that data on our back end. And that's kind of ringing true here when you see that I have 13 gigabytes backing up, but yet my total file size for this machine on the back end is 35 gigs. So I have 2 options here. Because my client's account is based in EMEA, I'm missing the 3rd option. So I'll go through the first option first. So the first one is the Restore Manager. Okay, so that is Mozy's own branded and created internal restore software that allows you to download a small package software, install it, it runs and downloads the files in the background for you, so you're not having to monitor it and maintain it. We would recommend this for any large backups over 20 gigabytes more so than anything else, but that's not saying that you can't use it for something smaller, for a number of maybe a gigabyte worth of files or smaller. It's just that its best value or its best optimization is for large backups. You really notice the difference when you're restoring large amounts of data using the Restore Manager as opposed to the other restore option. Compressed archives is our older version of restoring, and this is where we take your file selection and we put these files and folders into a compressed folder, and we send out the link to download this compressed folder to you. These compressed archives, the link for the download only lasts for 7 days, and therefore because of that we would only recommend that you would use compressed archives up to a maximum of 20 gigabytes. And that's just primarily down to the fact that these links expire after 7 days, and generally each link is only a maximum of 1 gigabyte in size. So unless you have a particularly fast internet connection, then anything over 20 gigabytes may take some time, and also on top, as well as that, is you have to stay on top of it because you're having to click the links to download them. So if you are using the compressed archive method, we would recommend downloading a third-party restore manager or download manager, something similar to Firefox's own inbuilt download manager is often a good one, and that's what some of our customers do use. The third option here that's missing off my own, and I say it's because it's an EMEA account and is available to our US customers, is a media restore, and that's a DVD or hard drive restore of your files and that are posted to you. So if it's up to 100 gigabytes, we would send your restore in DVD format. And if it's over 100 gigabytes, we would send it on an external hard drive. And there's fees, obviously, because of that, because we're having to send out DVDs or sending out a potentially a hard drive, there's an additional cost associated with that. That is not there for the Restore Manager or the archive packages. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to show you one or two other restore options. So the other download option that we have is the download now option. Okay, and that just allows you to download a file straight away. So it would be similar to opening a file off of an email and you download it straight away. So if we come in here and I'll download a file, find one, we will get, so we'll select this one and we have the option here to download. If I want additional download options, I select this action pane here and notice I have additional options. Okay, so I'm going to select this file here, okay, and I'm going to download now. So as I say, it's similar to opening a file off of an email. As you can see, it's downloading straight away and it's available to me. This feature is available and it's up to files and folders up to a size of 5 gigs. It is a quick function and it downloads pretty quickly for you if you wish to use that feature. Additional download options are available also. So if we just jump back here, so I just jump back here, and I will select a folder from one in here. So I will select this folder, and I'm going to select additional download options. So if I want to, again, I can include deleted files. So that is those files that have been deselected from backup but are not yet deleted entirely from our servers. I can change the date from here if I wish, or I can do additional download options. Again, it's a restore wizard, so I'm going to say webinar. I'm going to hit next. And I'm going to use the Restore Manager to show you what the Restore Manager looks like. If you haven't already used it, what will happen is we'll check my cookies to see if I actually have the Restore Manager downloaded previously. It detected it here. If I'm unsure, I can still download it from here. If I hadn't downloaded the Restore Manager yet, it would give me the link to download it. And this begin download option here would not be clickable until I had the software installed. So now because I have it installed, I'm going to hit begin download. And it downloads this .mzd file. I'll open up this and it will open up the Restore Manager for me. Okay. The .mzd file basically creates the list of the files and their locations on the servers to download, and that's what I'm actually just downloading there quickly with the Restore Manager. And then it's allowing me then to open the Restore Manager and ingest in this MZD file. It's telling it what files it needs to restore and their location. Again, I can preserve the original location. I can select a new location. I can overwrite existing files. I'm going to select a new location. Again, I'm going to select my desktop, hit OK. Give me a description of the files or the name of the restore. It's giving me the date, the source computer, and so forth. I hit next. It's asking me to confirm this information and then hit finish. It now begins the restore process. Here I have an estimation bar. I can show the details on the file. Okay, so there's only one file in there, so it's going to be pretty quick. But it will give you, if you open up the details section here, it'll give you the list of the files, and a little symbol here will tell you if it's in the progress of downloading. There's a little gear there, and it will show you the little gear spinning to show you that it's downloading at that time. If there's a red X there, then the file has failed to download. But it gives you the list here of all the files that have been restored and the process in which they are, and the details and the distance they are within the restore. Okay. Once you're happy and you're finished, you hit remove, and then it'll tell you there are no more restores in progress. and you're completed. Okay. The restore window online only allows you to select files and folders from within the one location. So for example, I have this folder selected here. If I'm to jump back out to the folder previously, that folder or that file gets deselected. If I want to select files from various locations on my machine, I have to enable my restore queue. To do that, I just go to Preferences and enable the restore queue here. What that then allows me to do is I can jump into Documents here. I can select a couple of folders, okay, and I can add them to my restore queue. Okay, I can now jump back out here to Users again. I can go to a different user. I can select Documents, and again I can add it to my restore queue. I can jump back out here again, go to my backup sets, select another one, and go add to my restore queue. At any point then I can now view my restore queue, and I have these 3 files in here. I can select all of them, and I can actually create a restore of these files now. So that restore queue just allows you to pick and select files from the one machine and put them all into a restore queue, and allows you then to restore all those files together in one restore, rather than going through individual restores for them all. Okay. Just of note there again, as I mentioned a while ago, you can see your event history here, and this lists all the restores that have been completed on your account, the name of the restore, okay, and the status of it, when it happened, and the type of download that it is. So I want to give the rest of the time over to the question and answers. There's 1 or 2 questions that have come through already, so I'm going to start with those. And if anybody else has any questions, please do pop them into the questions bar that you will see below in the software. So we go. Okay, so we have a first question here from Tyler from the local time, putting down the document from the policy. So Tyler, no. So the certain aspects of the file are pulled down from the servers, but you'd know the in-client restore is not dependent on the local backup. So the local backup is this 2x protect that you'll see in here. This is not dependent. You do not have to have this set up to use the in-client restore option. Okay, they're 2 separate. No problem, Tyler. So Eric, can I go through? Yeah. So I deliberately glossed over the VSS restores because they're probably not something that everybody would be using, but we'll go through them now. So as I mentioned a while ago, if you're using VSS backup sets, then the in-client restore is probably the best way to restore the files. So what you do here is click on the VSS restore. It will give you 2 options: to download files from the Mozy Pro servers as of the most recent backup, if you have that backup selected. Again, if you want a different backup, you would have selected the date up here. Okay, or use a previously downloaded restore. So you may have done a restore previously using VSS, and that would be available, and you would browse and use that. If not, if you want to select the files that are backed up most recently, you hit Next. It downloads the VSS metadata that it needs. And alas, in that backup, I do not have some VSS backup sets backed up. Bear with me. So in this instance, it would list here the files that you would have backed up using VSS. Okay, so I will check one of my other accounts. If you just bear with me just 2 seconds, and I'll check if I have. But basically, in that scenario there, but that option, that box will give you the. I don't have it there. Okay, so let's just run a quick backup. Okay. So as I was mentioning, with the VSS restore options, okay, so you download, the next option you will get here is to download the VSS metadata, and then it will present to you the available backup sets here. So for example, if you had SQL, if you had Exchange, it would give you the option to restore them there. You would select that and you would hit next. For more detailed instructions around restoring Active Directory and SQL and stuff like that, I would recommend going to our knowledge base. There's dedicated step-by-step guides there to go through, because with Active Directory it's a bit tricky. You have to make sure you do all the steps correctly so as not to make any mistakes using VSS restores. So I'll just leave that finish out at the moment, Eric, and I'll just jump back and just show you quickly at the end there what it looks like once that backup is completed. Okay, so Fernando, I'm just reading your question now. Yeah, so Fernando, you're moving from XP to Windows 7. There should be no issue with the restoring of your files and folders. There, there shouldn't be any problem with restoring any of those directly. If you need assistance with it, then let me know, and we can open up a support request and have somebody go through it with you. But you should be able to restore all your files and folders from C drives that you had backed up previously. Okay, so let me know if that answers your question, Fernando. If not, I can revisit it. But Tyler, your question is in relation to Mozy 2X Protect. So you have enabled, so just I'll just open it up just so people can see what we're talking about. Just click this one here. All USC permissions. So, okay, Mozy 2X Protect. So you're speaking in relation to the maximum size of the history folder. So you should be seeing it. My understanding, I haven't tested this, and what I can do is if my answer doesn't mark up, what I'll do is I will test it. But it should be if you've set this for, say, for example, the history folder currently, what you will probably need to do if your history folder currently was 5 GB and you now change this to 2, what I would do for the incline or the local backup, I would do an empty history first, so that you're clearing it. So what I would do is I would empty the history and then input the limitation if you're dropping down. If it's a scenario where you want to limit it to 2 GB and you're only backing up 1.5 GB at the moment, then it should start removing old versions the minute it gets near to the maximum. But I would say if you're dropping it from 5 GB to 2, just to be sure that it doesn't disrupt the process or slow down your backups or anything like that, I would do an empty history first and then implement that. So let me know, Tyler, if that answers your question, and if not, what I can do is I'll do some testing on it myself, because I haven't actually looked at that scenario myself. Yeah, so this empty history option here is only for the local backup. It won't affect the history online. It's only just the little history folder that will be created in the local backup. No problem, Tyler. Thanks for the question. Eric, yeah, if I would send that to you in terms of the VSS restores. If I can ask that you would send me an email just with the request for the information, and I'll reply back to that email with the information. If you can do that for me, Eric, that would be great. Are there any other questions for today? Okay, perfect. Thanks, Eric. I have that, and I will make note of your email, and I will send on the links to our knowledge base in terms of in relation to VSS restores. Again, so for everybody, I'll leave the session open for any more questions, but just to say thank you for everybody for your attendance today. I do apologize for the audio issues at the top of the session. I will make note to reach out to the software provider on that issue. And thanks for taking the time. We look forward to seeing you again in May. I have recorded this session, and I will be making it available once it's hosted on our community, and I will forward out the link to that recorded session once it's up there. And that normally takes a few days to be processed and put up onto our servers. Thanks very much, Eric. Have a good day. Are there any other questions? Okay, so if there are no other questions, we'll leave it there for today. If you do have any questions or may think of some questions that come up to you after we finish up today, then please do reach out to me. You should have my email address from the webinar invite. Yeah, sorry, Fernando. Yeah, you will have to reinstall the software. All right, Mozy won't be able to restore the software for you unless you backed up the executable. But I would imagine you probably haven't. But yeah, you will just need to reinstall the software in QuickBooks in your example. No problem. So again, thank you everybody for joining, and we look forward to seeing you next month.